Sports. When you've got a great ball club. Sports. When you're leaving it all on the field. Sports. When you like your team's chances. Sports. To survive and advance in sports. For the teams you love and the teams you love to hate. Oh, it's Sports Channel 8. Yeah. Sports Channel 8. Hey! Hey! Hey!
It's the most wonderful time of the year. It's ACC Tournament Week. This is Sports Channel 8, the streaming show. Shout outs to Weather Moose and Brian Geisinger. They're busy getting up their reports on all ACC teams. Weather Moose, I think, does some stuff for the, what's the Johnson County news outlet? The JoCo News. I think he's the
News Wire.
I think he does some sports reporting for them. Brian Geisinger's getting some stuff posted at accsports.com. Ben Swain, Josh Goodson, Hayes Permar with you to it's one of those times where like it's like the middle of the NCAA tournament where you're wrapping up stuff that happened, but also you're moving into exciting stuff that happened. So let's go present, then future, then past, if that's cool with you guys. Because the big news that dropped this morning was the All ACC Awards, and that's where I want to start the conversation, unless you guys want to go somewhere else. Josh Goodson putting himself on mute, so apparently he doesn't want to talk All ACC Awards. What's up, Goodson?
I'm good.
Let's see. Alondes Williams is your ACC Player of the Year. Steve Forbes is your ACC Coach of the Year. Mark Williams is your ACC Defensive Player of the Year. There's like six-man. Most improved was Darian Sebron. I don't really care about six-man. It was somebody from Florida State, I think. And then your first team All ACC. We've got that right here. Baycott, Williams, Banchero, McGusty, Boeheim. I love that the classic UNC fans who are going to be mad have even been given a reason to be mad because technically Armando Baycott got more total votes. It's like weighted for first team, second team, third team. But obviously, Alondes Williams won Player of the Year. Immediate reactions to any and all of the awards. Goodson, Swain.
I mean, I think Cameron McGusty, right? Like, I don't even is that a person? Is that real?
Yeah, BG informs us it's his sixth year, and he's already played for about three different teams. I think they brought him back from the G League. Right?
I think it looks fine. You asked my opinion. It looks fine.
What about the Player of the Year awards? I will say it took a lot out of. Alondes Williams may have still gotten my vote, except for the coolest thing about him was that he was going to lead the ACC in points and assists for the first time ever, and then Buddy Boeheim went and scored 30 on the last game to steal it from him. I wouldn't have changed my vote, but that did make it less cool in my eyes. Did you have any? Were you guys surprised that it was Alondes Williams? Did you think that Baycott might sneak in there after this weekend's performance?
No, I mean, I don't think it was going to be Baycott because all we've heard all week is that a of the year award is not a lifetime achievement award, and Baycott being a 5-star that's been in college for now 7 years, I don't think he was the player. Like you watch games, Alondes Williams is better than Armando Baycott, right? But if you like judge resumes and what. I somewhat have a problem with the Player of the Year and the Coach of the Year coming from a team that didn't even finish in the top 4 of the league.
There's a little bit of that.
That bothers me a little bit, right? Like, we'll get to the coach in a second, but you think about players that didn't win the league or come close to winning the league. You think of Eric Green at Virginia Tech, and he had like a historic season. You mentioned it, Alondes Williams. The thing was most assists, most points. That's awesome. Hands down player of the – he didn't end up with that. Like, what's his thing, right? Like, what's his thing?
He didn't do it.
Yeah. So,
and also, if you're going to go disrespected team that finished high, like that was your route, then why is it not Larinaga? Where they were picked to finish like 12th, right?
We'll get to coach in a second here.
I'm just saying, if that was your criteria that led you to Forbes, right, why not Larinaga, who, to your point, got a double bye?
Right. And that's my only problem with the Player of the Year is that it's going to a guy that didn't even come close to winning the league. And so that I think that's the problem there. Everything else looks fine.
My thing on let's see.
Would you give it at the Baycott, Swain? Like,
I think by default, right? Like nobody else stepped up to even beat. So I think it was a 2-player race, and again, when you had the hook of led the league in assists and led the league in points, that's your guy hands down. But then like once that went away, then you start looking at how they did from a team point of view. And
to me, didn't Zion win Player of the Year and Rookie of the Year?
Yes.
And when it's obvious like that, I guess you got to do it. But for the Duke guys, it's almost like they have to overcome the fact that we know you're going to get Rookie of the Year. And so I feel like in some voters' minds, it's like, we know you're going to win Rookie of the Year, so we don't feel that bad about not voting you Player of the Year if you're in the mix, And Banchero had the highest expectations coming in, and I don't think he didn't not need them. But it wasn't like Zion, where it was like we knew you were going to be good, but you came in and just blew everyone away, right?
Yeah, I don't think he didn't come close to being Player of the Year.
No, but I'm saying that almost like works against it. If nobody knew who
Alonzo Williams averaged 4 points on a different team last year and came over here and averaged 19 or 20 and probably made Wake into a potential tourney team. To your point, like he's not winning it if he doesn't. He may not win it if he comes in here as a normal transfer who averaged 14 points a game last year at Oklahoma.
Yeah,
but like his story kind of helps him, which is fine.
Yeah. The other thing I think that Baycott, I think rebounds have come to seen as like slightly fraudulent because they're partly based on how much you play, how much your team score. Like I think people used to be blown away by averaging 12 rebounds. And now it's like, there's ways to get rebounds depending on who, you know what I mean? And I think that in the 80s, like the Baycott double-double machine would have been like, oh, yeah, but now double-doubles and triple-doubles aren't seen as quite the stat that we used to hold them up to be. All right, Coach of the Year. I've got a philosophy take on Coach of the Year, but what's your reaction there, Swain? Or good? Let's go, Swain.
Yeah, I don't like it at all for a couple reasons. One, it actually went back and looked at this last week because I was just curious. This is now the 4th time in the history of the ACC that a Coach of the Year didn't finish in the top 4. Like that's a lot of coaches that probably did a great job, but it was like, you know what? They didn't finish in the top 4. And again, if the idea is you have the best player in the league and you can only finish 5th in the league,
right.
Are you really that good of a coach?
And another guy's second team All ACC.
But then the third thing that comes down to is we've always said it, like it's obviously turned into you were picked here preseason and you finished here postseason. So what it comes down to is the people who did the preseason voting had no idea who Alonzo Williams was, but they knew who Banchero was, right? So like high school athletes get a lot of attention that, the portal guys don't. But what's the difference between recruiting the portal and recruiting freshmen, right? Like there's no difference there. And also, isn't that part of coaching?
Yes. Well, so here's my question on the philosophy thing. And I totally agree. We may have talked about this last week, but I think it bears repeating. To your point, it has become we thought you would suck, and you didn't suck. I mean, we gave it to Pastner when it was like, we thought you were going to, go 0-4, and you went 500. Amazing. Right? It's like, no, his school should reward him. However, he's earned, more tenure there. Forbes obviously has too. But on the other side of that, if you get away from we thought you'd suck and you didn't suck, and it should really go to who did the best coaching job this year, then how do you ever separate it? And I'm not saying that it should be, but how do you ever separate it from, well, you won the league. So you did the combination of putting a team together and then coaching that team. And I think we talked about this too, because in the unbalanced schedule era, it's not as clear cut. When it was round robin, to me, it should be if you won the league, you did the best coaching job, you should win it every time. And there has to be some like crazy happening to depart from, let's just give it to the guy who won the league. I know that's not fun or sexy or debatable along the way because if it's just by default going to the guy who wins the league. But I'm kind of, that's where it should be. Otherwise, it is just the most improving coach award or whatever. The we thought you'd suck and you would, right. You didn't.
But even then, like, is it most improved from the preseason polls when nobody has a freaking clue? And like, again, preseason polls, anyone at media day votes for that. right?
Yeah,
That's not the panel. That's anyone at Media Day votes for that. So then, or is it how your team did last year versus how your team did this year? And if you look at that, there's no question who that is. And I don't even know who else got votes. You guys said that Hubert got a vote, which
he got one, whatever. But no, I don't think he deserved Coach of the Year.
But yeah, again, that was a 2-horse race. Or if you want to throw in Miami as well, Miami finished with a double bye like that.
That's my only thing. If you're correct, if you went with the wow, look what you did, Steve Forbes to get up to 5th, like why would if that's your criteria that led you to vote for Forbes? It feels like Larinaga should have gotten more look. But I fall to the who won the league.
I think it says more about the previous coaches at Wake Forest than it says about the job that Steve Forbes did here, right?
If Miami wins, if Miami's schedule is flipped, because they've been a little weird the last month, but they had all those good wins, Larinaga probably wins.
Yeah. They started off good.
They beat Duke. They beat, I think they beat North Carolina. They have good wins.
So that's you're exactly right. If that happens in
February and not January, then Larinaga probably wins because we're sitting here being like, oh my God, Miami just played their way off of the bubble. They just played their way into a double bye. What a great job he's done. So it's silly.
Where does Miami sit on the bubble? It is. Are they the 4th seed or the 3rd seed in the ACC?
It's weird. It's weird the stuff that you look at, like because Notre Dame of the 4 byes, Duke's in. Right, we're probably all under the assumption that North Carolina's in.
Except for Paul.
Notre Dame and Miami are odd because they actually have better wins than UNC does, but they both those teams have some warts as well. And then Wake Forest is still kind of on the bubble. It would be hilarious if Wake does have the player and coach of the year and then gets snubbed from the tournament. That would be kind of funny.
I saw Swain shooing someone off screen just now. My wife got out.
No, I'm actually working.
My wife just threatened to come on here after her shower, but I think she expected me to shoo her away. But if you guys want to, I can welcome her back on here if you would like. Goodson, I understand that NC State won another award.
I don't know why. I mean, I guess we'll get to the game Saturday night in Durham, a regular season game that basically had no meaning or anything. NC State won 2 ACC championships this weekend.
I'm not talking about that, but what do you want to get to those? What was the other one? Basketball and what?
Wrestling, I think. I don't know.
No. I mean, the NC State men's basketball team took home an important award. That again, only you really. We need to start naming this award. Actually,
they finished 7-24 against the spread this year, and the 24 was the most. I couldn't find a better way to say it. The most non-covers of any team in college basketball this year.
So if you bet against the pack, like if you
blindly every game, then you would have won around $1,500 if you bet $100 every game. The
emotional hedge on the pack would have been like, man, that was a crappy season, but I made $1,500, and that's not a terrible deal as a sports fan. It might feel like selling your soul to the devil, but if going against the pack, this needs to be an award. We need to figure out a name for it and just track this every year.
And real quick, if we're going to talk state a second. I think their bracket opened up for them by losing against.
Okay, hold on. Let me bring up the.
Yeah, we got our final bracket now. Finally,
I'll find it. Keep talking, but no, I don't. I know you're kind of being funny, but like it's not that crazy when you look at
they're the 15th seed. They're in last, so their path to the final in theory would be the 10-7. 2, 3, and then 1, right? That's the hardest. But look, I'm not even worried about like getting all the way. But like, let's say if they wanted to make a run to get to the quarterfinals, right? To play Notre Dame, they just have to beat Clemson and Virginia Tech.
I mean, I look at that and I'm like, yeah, you can win that. Terquavian starts averaging 30 a night at the ACC tournament.
If you're any of the bottom 6 and having to play on Tuesday, that's probably the path you want to play. Like you don't want to play Virginia,
right?
You don't really want to play UNC.
BC Wake, I might. No,
I don't think you want to play Wake because Wake's gonna be pretty desperate. I'd rather play Virginia and Tech than Wake. I'd rather play Notre Dame over Carolina or Duke.
The 14 seed is infinitely harder than the 15 seed.
Correct.
Going Virginia, UNC, Notre Dame, Duke, instead of going,
Clemson, Virginia Tech,
Notre Dame, and then you're in the semis.
And then anything can happen. Yeah.
I want to see red jackets in Brooklyn. Do you want to? I didn't want to take away from the actual women's basketball. Three-peat is pretty darn cool. Did you watch any of the
I mean, they won three. They've won 3 in a row now. I don't want to say they got lucky, but they got some bracket help. That Louisville lost their first game, and Louisville was kind of like their best competition, and they lost. So, but what is it? You can only play who you can play. Right. You can't. So you're not going to take anything away from it. And I think it was the interesting thing now for them would be South Carolina lost yesterday in their conference championship, and I think that the biggest play is there's the one of the Final Four, one of the regionals to get to the Final Four is actually in Greensboro. So State's obviously going to host in Raleigh their first 2 games, and then maybe they could sneak ahead of South Carolina and on the seed list and be able to go to Greensboro for the first.
Gotcha.
For the Sweet 16 and Elite 8.
Are they definitely a number 1 seed in the question?
Yeah. They'll 100% be a number 1 seed. It's just a matter of who are they going to be how them and South Carolina are going to match as far. And South Carolina probably would get it because South Carolina has the head-to-head. But
gotcha.
I do have a correction to make, Goodson. We are not going to give State credit for they can't control who they play. They have to play who they play, because then that would mean that we would need to at least somewhat acknowledge Virginia's national championship, and we're not going to do that on this show.
Yeah, I almost brought that up while he was saying it, but I declined. Also, shout out to Longwood, I think, going to the NCAA tournament for the first time. Drake fell to Loyola. Your girl, Sister Jean, in the tournament. Sister Jean falls under the category of, and we've brought this up before, I don't know if we've done it publicly, but this is our, don't get mad at us. We're not bad people because you're always thinking it serious, right? It goes along the lines of, when people get mad, when there's the salute a hero at the game, we've always maintained that, if this is a veteran who lost a limb in combat, everyone needs to get on your damn feet and buy all their beers and everything, right? But on some days, they sneak in the park ranger on us, right? So
if your title, if you have to be, if they give you a title of a sergeant, major, lieutenant, you're fine. You're a hero.
Right.
If you're just like Jill Smith,
teacher,
you're probably not that much of a hero.
We've got a whole week to honor teachers. A teacher should be honored, but we're not putting you next to the guy who lost his limb, right? So this is in the same category of takes that you get mad about, but you feel the same way. When you have the heartstring story, like the person that becomes the unofficial mascot for the team, maybe there's something endearing about them. There might be a young child. It could be somebody battling an illness or whatever. You get 1 year with that team, and then your story has to go away. And that's what Sister Jean fits in this category. I don't care what Loyola does. You had your time. You got to be part of the one shining moment montage. But that's it. It's anytime anybody goes to a Loyola game, they can talk about meeting Sister Jean because that's the only thing anybody knows about Loyola basketball. I get it. But don't come at me with the Sister Jean shots this year. I don't want to hear about her. I don't want to see her. Find something new. Loyola's got somebody has a terrible tragedy in their lives that we can exploit for a heartwarming tale for CBS, and it doesn't have to be Sister Jean. We're taking that stand.
Yeah. There are 3 things that are completely played out in March Madness. One is the TV cart tweet, right, during the ACC tournament. Just don't. I don't want to see it.
Oh gosh, can we please get rid of the TV cart? Everybody's rushing to do it already. There's 5 up today, I bet.
2 is the True TV. Oh, it's March Madness when Impractical Jokers is on your TV when you wake up in the morning. No, this is the 8th year we've done that joke. Don't see that joke.
Oh, guilty.
And then number 3 is Sister Jean. This is shit that was funny once, and it's so played out. Just don't go there. Don't do that to it.
If they win a game, Loyola, seriously, everybody jokes about the fighting so-and-sos that makes up a mascot. They should literally change their mascot to the fighting Sister Jeans, because that's all we know about it. But that's a great March Madness guide. We will use that. No carts going in the classroom. No, what was the second one?
The True TV Impractical
no
Jokers.
one channel. Yeah, no one channel is True TV on, and no more Sister Jean.
Let's get a Duke-UNC.
All right, we looked back on the ACC. No, we looked current on the ACC awards. We looked forward to the bracket. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Good call by Michael Pinule. Sorry if I get names wrong. Bring your own.
Pinule. What do you mean Pinule? Do you not know how to read?
Sorry, man.
Pinule.
I got a lot of moving parts over here. I'm trying to produce the show and talk at the same time. Yes, bring out your own sister. Make sure she's a year older than Sister Jean,
yep.
and like definitely put her in a wheelchair or whatever. All right. Saturday night. I was bringing up my notes here.
I'll start. First off, I thought the celebrities not that cool. For some reason, I expected something. I expected more or something more random or someone more. This is bad because I don't know who I would have thought would have been like, wow, that's pretty cool. But I don't think we got that. Like Seinfeld, I mean, was that like the most cool random person there? And if it's so, like, was that really cool and random? And
yeah, it felt like it needed a president, like either Trump just like making it himself known,
Putin.
Or Obama.
Yeah, Putin would have been
Zelensky, the Ukrainian guy.
That would have been a huge pull right now.
Zelensky would have been amazing. Obviously, that guy's not being distracted. But yes, so I kind of agree with you. I mean, it was cool as hell seeing Dirk there. You expected the Tim, you may not have expected, but Duke alum like Ken Jeong and Tim Cook, it's like, all right, I can see that. I agree with you. It felt like
Terrell Owens was like the most like random sports person there, and it's like really Terrell Owens was there,
and
like,
Kyler Murray, and also it felt weird, like when Warren Sapp was in Cameron when Miami was there, it was like he bought a whole section, right? And they would just do these shots of like Kyler Murray or Terrell Owens just like by themselves. And I get that like you can't buy 10 tickets to Duke-UNC. Like, I mean, they could if they wanted, but they're not dropping that. They're like, but yeah, it seemed a little random. And then partly they were, I don't know, they may have been more spread out because a lot of times those people are in that section where the former Duke players were.
Sure. It was a little underwhelmed just from that sense.
Yeah, if it seemed like Dwayne Wade, like a couple other.
If it had been like Duke, Kentucky, it would have been more star-studded.
Yeah, then Drake would have been there with the House Divided shirt on. All right, then I know your other take. All right, so I said on the show Friday I didn't give UNC a chance to win. Josh, you're bagging on UNC fans who like I want
to like kind of take. I want to kind of discuss like. Kind of like where should Duke fans feel bad? Like I want to discuss that dynamic of it because the game I thought was just very UNC's guys who have talent showed up and played well. And when you play well and you have talented guys who play well, you may win a game, right? Like,
sure, especially they have 3-point shooters. That's like the one thing that's been kind of their saving grace this year.
But it was just the reaction after the game from UNC fans. Like I'm kind of okay with the dancing on the grave a little bit, right? The jokes and the memes but you can't have that. But then also play this card of there was no one giving us a chance to actually win this athletic contest or this because.
No, it was
your UNC basketball with your own tradition and your own championships and your own titles and your own 5 stars on the court. I went back and looked like the 5 guys at the end of the game, right? Because none of the starters for UNC came out of the game in the second half, and 2 5 stars and 3 4 stars. So it's like putting the game aside, or putting all the other stuff aside and just putting man versus man. It's like, wow, UNC actually has guys on the other side too that can play basketball. They're allowed to play basketball, and just this feeling of we had no business winning this game. Like I've seen too many Duke games where the best team doesn't win a lot.
Yeah,
like that happened again, but it just so happened that it was K's last game, and it was. But I don't think that had anything to do with.
It's the intangibles, baby. The intangibles.
It was bizarre. That's the only critique I have of like the fan reaction. Like. Be satisfied.
Here's where it's really difficult to lump Carolina fans together, right? Because they're 2 different sets of people you're talking about here. We talked about this before on the show. You've got the people who are happy that UNC won the basketball game, and then you've got people who are happy that Coach K lost the basketball game, right? And there is a huge subset of UNC fans who would rather see Duke lose than their own team win. And so you've got the dancing on the graves faction over here, which is the group that cares more about Duke than Carolina, which makes sense because, let's be honest, Duke is Big Brother right now. That is unquestionable that Duke is Big Brother right now. And you've got that group there. And then you've got the group of actual like Carolina fans who are like, oh, I didn't think we would win the game. I'm excited we won the game. And I think that's okay. But it's the collection of those two fan bases coming together as one that's giving off those mixed signals. That's my take on it.
And so here's a couple of things, and I don't disagree with anything Swain said. And I feel like I've moved into I am UNC fan who's like would be excited to see them win. And for the first time in a long time, I backslid into like a 13-year-old UNC fan. That was as much I felt more the 2017 when I followed that team to the title. If they had lost, it would like I would be like I had a great time following this team. It was a lot of fun. I saw a couple, like I don't think I would have been that heartbroken. And I was not that. I obviously wanted UNC to win the game, but I would not say I was as dialed into that game as I was the Duke-UNC. I mean, it felt like being a kid again UNC fan, 100%. But I also think
I'm saying that like he doesn't know that we've seen the video of him in the Trey Jones game. That was 13-year-old Permar at the end of that Trey Jones.
That was for like 90 seconds. Come on. Okay. I'll allow myself that. For that kind of ending. Come on. But then the way the first game went, that was a big part of playing into it. Was like, yeah, even if I do think this team could make it to the NCAA tournament, but nobody has their ceiling feels like, Sweet 16 would be exceeding what their thought, right? And the way not only the first game went, but every game against a good team has gone for UNC has been not only a loss, a defeating loss. You don't see many Duke-UNC lines, even when UNC's bad. 11.5? Like
that was wild.
That played into it. You know what I mean? It just felt like a lot. And then the fact they won by – it ended up being a 12-point game. UNC basically won by 8. They made their right run at the right time and won by 6 or 8, and then fouls got away for it. So I feel like the way it went down the first time, and then there was the element of just as anybody would say, like, oh, they're not going to let Duke lose this one. But I think it was more about the way the first game went than really believing that a fix was going to be in.
So to that point, there's no way they're going to let Duke lose this one. What do we always say about bowl games? Who wins bowl games?
The team who cares more.
The team who cares more, right?
Yep.
Duke on Saturday was there for the parade and the T-shirts and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet if you ask Kay, kind of ask Kay again, part of the different wouldn't be game plan. It'd be like all the stuff surrounding the actual,
like don't even let them show up in the gym.
The fact that there's 18 and 19-year-olds who have literally only been with Coach K for like 6 to 8 months, and like the enormous amount of pressure on those guys to come out and actually just win a game, regardless if it's UNC, but just to like win the last game, like.
But yeah.
That ain't fun. Like maybe if it was a senior laden Duke team, maybe they don't lose that game. But like, I don't know. It was a lot of pressure on Duke, and I think it kind of showed. But it goes back to my point of I don't think it was fluky either. Like Duke didn't play bad.
Right.
Like Duke, like
that was the cool part. That's
where when watching UNC, that got me thinking when all these UNC fans were coming out of the woodwork of like, this is unbelievable. Can't believe this was happening. No one said we could do this. And it's like, I understand you have the results from earlier this year, right? You haven't done that, but we've also seen times when UNC has like beat the crap out of Virginia and made it look easy. And I'm not saying it's this exact same scenario, but they've got players. And it's not like they shot the best 3-point percentage in the history of the world while Duke missed every shot they took. Like they just finally executed to the level that they should have been executing all year. And it wasn't a fluke or anything like that. They just played well.
Question for you, Swain, and this is kind of an opinion I formed watching that game, and you can tell me if you think it's true or not, because obviously you pay closer attention to Duke. One thing that UNC has, I think, to their advantage, and this has kind of been worked to UNC in the past of like running the system, is the dudes, the five guys who play, basically. And we could talk about I felt bad for Justin McCoy. I mean, I legitimately felt bad, much like I felt bad for Coach K having to sit through the ceremony, because that's the last thing after the game, even if he, allowed it to happen or whatever. I felt bad when Justin McCoy got in the game. But UNC basically has five players, and one of the best things about him is they pretty much all know their role. Caleb Love is the only one who sometimes forgets what his role is being best, but everybody knows exactly what they're going to do. Whereas Duke, it's like, if Banchero's role is to just like score when he can, because he does that at will, but then it's like, how do you make sure? Jeremy Roach seemed like he had some good takes, but it's like the offense doesn't start with Jeremy Roach and then go to wherever. It's like anybody could score, but we don't really know we know Banchero is our best scorer. We know Mark Williams sometimes is our best option to score because he's bigger than the next guy guarding him. But almost because it could be so many different people and it never is one person, I feel like is working against Duke. Am I crazy there?
No, I mean, like, look at the end of game scenarios, right? Like Duke's played a few close games this year, right? And up until the Carolina game, they were 10 points from an undefeated season or something,
right.
Something along those lines, right? So in those games, you had one possession for Duke to do something, and one it was Banchero, one it was Wendell Moore, one it was AJ Griffin in Virginia, and he hit the shot, right? Like he hit the big shot that they set up for. But it's one of those situations where, and it's not, oh, Duke's got so many weapons in that scenario. Like you need a basket. You've got four different guys to go to. We need a basket. Which one of these four dudes did we get? Like it's not RJ Barrett and Zion Williamson, right? It's not that type of situation. And so I think that's probably the Achilles heel for Duke, is that there's not like one guy that we need a basket on this trip. We're going to do it with this one guy, right? But the flip side of that is it's also difficult to defend, right? Like if you don't know who's going to get the shot. So like with the Wake Forest game, Banchero had the take, but then nobody boxed out Williams, and he's scored the game winner. That can either make a team dangerous or it can hurt a team in situations where they need a basket. And so I think you're spot on that. There's just it can be anyone. It's not just going to be one guy, and I think it might help them just have one guy, but that's also kind of a thing that's easier to defend. If you're like, we're going to shut down this one guy, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Herm just sured you and yepped you all over this.
I'm aware.
Like we got a sure and a yep within 3 seconds. It was interesting. I have, as far as the basketball and just like what happens next and how do you go on prediction.
Yep.
Sure. It's weird that the outcome of the game, and you may leave the game thinking, I think both teams are better off of how the outcome happened.
No, definitely.
Like, I think UNC probably got a lot of confidence of, they haven't won a big game. They haven't beat a good team. They haven't seen it. They haven't felt it. And because I don't think it was fluky, they can replicate that. I put a tweet yesterday, and I don't know if follow me on this. I think we saw UNC's fastball, and I actually think their fastball can play with about any other team. That doesn't mean they'll beat them. Like if they play again tomorrow, or if UNC plays Gonzaga tomorrow, I don't know if UNC's best beats Duke's best, but I don't think it's a blowout. And I don't think there's that many teams in the country. There's only like 10 or 12 teams in the country who can say that when paired against another of those 10 or 12 teams. Like I don't think Wake Forest's best effort can play with a good Duke or a great Duke or anything like that. So, and I think Duke, they're probably going to win something. I mean, I think they're now going to win something. I don't know what it is. It's either going to be in Brooklyn or they're going to make a Final Four. But I do think there's like a little bit of karma and like 2017 UNC redemption tour, blah, 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 that's going to come out of this as well. So it should be fun. I walked away as a State fan who can usually loathe the Duke-UNC game, but like I was like jacked watching that game, and I felt like, yo, college basketball, you've got me now. If all the games can be like that, then I'm gonna love the next couple weeks.
As that fan, I know typically State fan is like, oh, I wish a hole would open up in the earth. But like speaking as a fan of college basketball, you definitely want Duke-UNC ACC final, right? Like there's no other good matchup, is there?
Yeah, well, yeah, sure.
I'm just saying some years it could be like, oh, if the 2 seed is good, if the 2 seed plays the 3 seed, that would be a great Saturday night matchup. But like there's like Miami Notre Dame would be terrible, right?
Well, yeah.
But even like Duke, who else could Duke? I guess if Virginia made a run, that would be fun because Virginia. Virginia's at least beat Duke. But my point is, how could you? And because UNC actually looks like their game to play with Duke now, how could you not want a Saturday night? Or in K's last year, can we get the? Well, they would have to both make the Final Four because
I want to know. I think this is the year it has to happen.
You get the four.
They have to meet an NCAA tournament.
But like that just goes back to, again, the league itself. For an interesting final, you have to have Duke.
Yeah.
Right? Like anybody else versus anybody else is not interesting. It's just not, like this year, it's just not interesting without Duke. Like if you get, I don't know, pull up the bracket again. If you get, Wake or Miami coming through that top half of the bracket, like there's literally no one on the top half of that bracket that's going to be interesting on Saturday night other than Duke, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. No, I agree. But this year there's nobody in the bottom that's interesting besides Carolina, right?
What I'm saying is it doesn't matter who's on the bottom, right? Like it doesn't. You take any of those teams, none of those teams on the bottom half of the bracket will drive a final if it's Syracuse or FSU or Miami or Wake on the other half.
Sure. But like I don't think a Duke Virginia Tech final moves the needle that much, does it?
Because it's K's last ACC tournament game. Right? But like you put Carolina and Miami in the finals, no one cares.
Like UNC UVA a couple years ago when they were like both top 10 teams, that was still a game final in DC.
Well, those were two good teams. Like a couple. I'm saying this year
right now. Yeah, 100%.
Herm, where do you land as the UNC guy? Where do you land on this? Is the best regular season win in the history of UNC, or this is the trump card in the Duke UNC rivalry now? Like, are you?
It's a card. Titles are number one, right? That like they're on that level where it's like titles, right? So I think UNC fans relish, Roy winning more titles than K in his time there. And getting more Final Fours, like they'll claim that always. Even I'm sure K has more head-to-head and even probably a better record during that stretch. They'll go to titles. Definitely, I think Bomani summed it up well. However you want to rank it, I don't think there'll be a regular season win more enjoyable for a UNC fan. Partly for what Swain said, for the subset.
Also, Bomani is one of those people.
Yes, but people were getting lost in. People were getting lost in rank these regular season wins. It's like, dude, how much did you enjoy it? That's the ranking, right?
If you're a UNC fan and you're sitting back right now with fourth in the conference as University of North Carolina, and you're like, man, this season was perfect just because we won that game, then you're one of those fans that hates Duke more than you like your own.
100%. And I would disagree.
How far that program is, like it's Maryland. That is UNC is Maryland right now.
But I wouldn't say it was a good season just because they beat Duke.
But people are.
But I would say
people are. That's what I'm saying. People are. It's unreal the mindset of UNC fans that lean on that side of it. I don't like. You are the University of North Carolina, and you care more about another program than your own program.
But I don't think it's lame for Josh's question for the answer to be correct. For if the scenario were flipped, if they knew it was Roy's last season and Duke beat Roy in his final game, Duke fans would rank that as high a regular season win as other things like that. I think that holds true.
Duke fans would rather beat Kentucky, Gonzaga, one of those. Absolutely.
Nah, I disagree. What do you think, Goodson?
I I don't know if I agree with Swain of like they'd rather beat Gonzaga, but I don't think we would see like the outpouring of.
No, you wouldn't. But if you ranked regular season wins, you wouldn't say, I don't know, that Kentucky 13 one that was better than beating Roy in his last game or beating Dean in his last game.
Well, better maybe, but are they going to go? Is it? I don't think there would be the same reaction if it was flipped.
Guys, listen. The one of us that is a Duke fan is telling you the one thing that people bring up more than anything is the Zion RJ year where Duke beat the hell out of Kentucky. That is talked about more than the year that I guess it's Doherty's last year where Duke won by like 30 in Cameron, right? Like that's brought up.
You say Doherty's last year?
I'm telling like a blowout win, right?
All right, so is that RJ Zion win? Is that the best Duke regular season win of all time?
That conversation takes place.
I know. Is that
the best a Duke team has ever played that I've ever seen a Duke team play was in that game. Like that was
I feel like every time I put a question to you, you quantify it a different way. Like that's the best. Okay. Is that the best regular season win in Duke history? And I'm not. You brought up a good one. I'm with you. I hear that one because it opened the season and it was like the Zion era is on. So I'm not saying you're wrong on that one.
Let me answer it this way. My pause. The games that are running through my head are Duke Fab 5 games, right? Because those are freaking classic games, right?
I remember that. Yep.
Duke Temple, when Temple was number 1 in the country. It was one of the first games I remember watching on TV because it was a national broadcast, right, with Mark Macon.
Yep.
Like those are the games I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking about, like the Trey Jones game. Like I'm just not thinking about those games.
That's fair. Some of those are fair answers. Right. I still think I agree. I don't think the reaction would be the same. I think UNC fans were happy the Duke fans would have been. But I think a win over Roy, his final game, if he had announced it and there been, would at least be in that conversation. But that's my opinion.
Here's what it comes down to: there are not Duke fans who feel threatened by Dean or Roy or whoever. There's not that inferiority complex that resides in Chapel Hill right now.
I hear you. Next, handshake gate. Is it a thing or not? What
I kind of missed that, and actually, I kind of missed that entirely. I will throw out and shout out to the Carolina Junior Hurricanes. We had a game on Saturday night up in Pittsburgh where the referees told us not to shake hands. They sent us back to the bench.
It looks like it's going that way in sports, especially since it's just for show anyway. I just think I thought you were saying I miss it. I don't mind. I don't know what it is.
No, I saw what it was, but
yeah.
No, I mean there's all kinds of stuff that, like, again, it's Duke Carolina. These guys spend way more time together than any of us know about. I mean, it could have been something that they said at the bar one night that, when they're hanging out and they're pissed off about it. Like, we see it as fans and we're like, okay, that has to do with the context of this basketball game.
Sure.
But like these two teams, especially, we don't know because they spend so much time together.
I'm just saying I kind of like it because, I mean, Hubert Davis and Chris Carrawell are nice enough people that they will probably behind closed doors be like, hey, let's not do that again type thing, right? Yeah. But I miss Roy and Kay had too much to lose to really beef. There was a couple, like every now and then it'd be you said something to a reporter and you said something different to a reporter. But anytime you wanted tension in the moment or in the game, it never happened between Roy and Kay. It felt like they both had too much to lose. So I'm all here for a little scrapping and a little animosity between the two teams.
Yeah, I'm with you. I lean more towards it's probably not animosity, but
animosity is the wrong word. Yeah. But just
I wish I could remember the two players. This is a couple of years ago, Duke Carolina game in Cameron. There were two players that were at the scorer's table about to check into the game, and the game itself was intense. It was one of those years that, I really wish I could remember, but it was one of those years that the game itself was incredibly tense, and a Duke guy and a Carolina guy are sitting at the scorer's table about to check in, and the way the game went, they sat there for a good 2.5 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. The two of them were absolutely just shooting the shit.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do. Like they were like laughing. They were like, animated with their hand. They were just having a conversation. And like, that's the kind of stuff that like, we want that game to be, just complete hate and what, and they don't.
All right.
I was a little bit with Love and Theo John going back and forth with each other, but
and Love and Theo John and Baycott a couple times. When I remember watching, UNC fans will say Theo John plays dirty. I like how Theo John plays because I play the same way, and he's very smart. But he goes into like box out, and he doesn't put elbows up, but he. In box out, you're allowed to put your body into the other guy, right? That is totally allowed, even though it shouldn't seem like it's two people without the ball. But he just goes into other people harder than anyone else, and like you just not expect it. Like some dudes box out hard, and he just a lot of just not even I'm saying that should be called fouls, but the kind that the other dude notices, and like multiple times that happened. Banchero and Leaky Black had a couple times. One time. There was a score and somebody, I don't know. I think if these teams play again, there'll be a hard foul. Either Theo John seems to be the most likely candidate for Duke, and there are a couple guys who might respond or draw it or do something dirty for UNC. I think it could be.
Let's be honest. There's a huge difference in guys like John and Banchero who have been in Durham for 8 months,
right?
And dudes that have like spent 2-3 years in the rivalry where they're going to movies and hanging out and stuff like that outside of the games. There's a big difference in that.
All right, final. We've got a little long there, but a lot of good topics. We will we'll hit some more about the AC tournament. Obviously, what time does State play tomorrow, Goodson?
I think they're the second game, like 4:00 potentially, something like that. Like
right. Second game, yeah, probably 4:00. So we'll have a State game to talk about. We'll see if the run starts for them. All right, wild card stories. Do you want to discuss any of these three things? Greg Hardy getting his ass beat in UFC, the Righteous Gemstones finale a week ago, to me, a little of a letdown, or Josh Goodson getting his golf back and playing bogey golf this weekend. Would any of those three topics interest you?
No.
I did. Josh Goodson breaking out the Demi Savarino clap. It was fun. I
don't need to talk about Greg Hardy. Was there anything else from the Dukes? Like anything else from the speech? Wait. Legit. Were you? I know we've already got it to. Was this the most important? What would have been the most important regular season? Were you like, as a Duke fan, were you upset that they could not win that game? Like, was not upset like because you lost to UNC, but like, was there a feeling of like that it deserved a little bit more, or was it just kind of like irrelevant?
I think from a basketball point of view, I think Duke was flirting with a possible 1 seed, and so like that was important.
Sure.
But in terms of it like being. And it's I'm not gonna lie. Duke wants to beat Carolina. Obviously, it's the best rivalry in college basketball. But outside of that, I think again, even for fans, the day itself was bigger than the game, and it was gonna be a bummer no matter what, right? I think that was kind of the at least the people that I talked to on Saturday, like they were bummed before the game started. And it had nothing to do with the game. It was just, you've got the best coach in the history of college basketball that's playing his final home or coaching his final home game. That just brings up a whole different level of stuff for fans. And I think that was probably more of the focus than, Duke lost a basketball game that, rivalry game and a game that definitely knocked them out of any conversation for a 1 seed.
Why was that one Kay granddaughter wearing a bathing suit? It was like, she was like, how did this happen? But then later that day, my niece posted from college, and she was basically at a party that had nothing to do with the pool wearing a bathing suit top. So I was like, maybe that's just the thing. So anything else? We'll be back on Wednesday. The podcast will drop in about an hour, and the ACC tournament starts tomorrow. So the best coverage will be coming from the @Sports Channel 8 Twitter.
Be on the lookout. Be on the lookout for one more chance to bet against NC State. The line will be out around 2 or 3 p.m. And not only are they not covering the last 3 games, I call it the loaded appetizer sampler of bets. Basically, betting the other team everywhere you can, like first half, and also taking their team total over with the thought that State's not playing any defense right now either. Not lying. So that's essentially between 6 to 8 bets a game. They've all hit the last 3 games against Wake Forest, against UNC, and against Florida State. I'm a little worried tomorrow.
Tournament might be a different pack, No,
not even that, but Clemson kind of is stinky to watch. They get in like gross games. So I'm worried about like if I tell somebody to take the Clemson over, not usually a good thing.
God, Clemson, Virginia obviously has the reputation for it, but Clemson loves to just not make a basketball game look good. We've hit this already, but like for most of the game, but certainly for a stretch in the second half, Duke-UNC looks like, back in the day when
it was a great game. Like I was like jazzed watching it as a college basketball fan, and I was like,
threes were being answered with threes, like drives. Bencaro was like looking like KD. RJ Davis was playing over his head. Baycott was doing, was looking his best. It was just fun for a good stretch there. All right, check out the podcast a little bit later. Check us out on Wednesday. Follow @Sports Channel 8 on Twitter for the best coverage of the ACC tournament.
Don't make the TV card joke. Don't do it.
It's already been done. It's already been done because everybody's like, I'm going to be the first to do it this year. For Swain, for Goodson, for our man BG and Weather Moose. BG will be calling games on the ACC tournament. Listen to BG on 99.9 The Fan tomorrow and Wednesday. Sports Channel 8, we out.